And we should be live.
Ta-da!
Welcome. Let's see. First of all, check the audio and the video because sometimes it happened that I got muted. I was muted like for 20 minutes on a live stream.
Oh my God.
I was just coding and people said like, really? Yes, Francesco is so silent today. It was in the meanwhile I was perfect. So
That's actually the
video
icebreaker
should
that you have in modern society. So can you hear me?
Yeah.
Am I on mute?
basically this is how instead of hello now we say this.
I used to prank people in these kind of calls by just moving my lips, but without actually saying a word.
Nice. Yeah. We can talk 2 minutes about we can talk 2 minutes about what happened yesterday. Do you know what happened on Facebook? And
well, I'm sure they weren't using Portainer, so that's one of the reasons why it happened.
I've seen all the kind of jokes because I have a lot of developers on Twitter. All the possible kind of jokes. Like the best I've seen is today on LinkedIn. I've seen like a post which a phrase like today on Friday I started to work on Facebook as an intern. I pushed on production, and they say that if they would have had a problem, they should have sent me a message on the Facebook group. The boss would have sent me a message on WhatsApp. So everything seems that it was fine.
That's great.
See you on Monday.
Oh man!
The one I saw was Mark Zuckerberg saying, "Oh God, I just tripped on the wires." He just posted that on Twitter, actually.
And I've seen also on Twitter the official Twitter account posted like "Hi everyone," and the WhatsApp and Instagram account they replied. That's nice. I love when this happens between the social media managers. That's very funny. Hey Saurav, hey there. Perfect. So why? Just a moment. Okay, so why are we here today? Because I don't know if all the people that are watching they know Portainer. There we go, Andrew. Prime Factory got pretty yesterday. That's true. Yeah, so basically, what is Portainer? I let them explain. I know of course, but maybe they are better than me. And I know Portainer because when I was working for the European Space Agency, I needed to do a presentation. And apart the memes that I put inside the presentation, I need to find this again. Basically, it was a presentation also with Docker. I was using Swarm at that time. It was some years ago. And so the managers, they had some problem to understand the CLI, the black stuff, some very nerdy stuff. For example, I like that also. But when they seen Portainer on the presentation, they say that and then they understood exactly what I was trying to explain, and I was failing basically. So because it's hard. So so now I know most of them, and I'm super happy. Let's start with the presentation. Hi, everyone. We have Dimko, who is a developer advocate. Let's start with you, Dimko. And would you like to introduce yourself and say why you are here and why you have joined the Portainer?
All right, perfect. Thanks for the short intro, Francesco. And briefly, I'll go into details what I've been doing for the last couple of years. Mostly there was software engineering, so I'm a software engineering by heart, definitely, and a community leader. So I decided that I'll try doing the developer relations and developer advocacy, since I've been doing that for the last 5 years, unofficially organizing the conferences, organizing the meetups, etc., while still being fully equipped software engineer or a tech leader of distributed teams building distributed systems. So, and why I joined Portainer specifically is because of the mission of the company. I really liked the idea of simplifying things when it comes to building distributed systems. That's the exact pain that I had while doing a billion of workshops for different teams explaining what is Kubernetes, how to use that, what is the exact framework way that you should be deploying your stuff, monitoring your stuff, etc. And I definitely see Portainer making developers' life much, much, much easier in that kind of sense. So my goal then is to make more developers know about Portainer.
Perfect. And I was one of them, so I don't know if that was related to you. I don't know when have you joined the Portainer? How many years?
Like 1 month ago.
1 month ago. So okay, so yeah, kind of now. Okay, perfect. So Ryan Gray has an incredible Twitter account. You should follow him. It's the goat. I thought that was a joke. To be honest, I'll post this in
Yeah.
the. I'll post this after the live stream. I'll tag you because I thought that was a joke and I haven't tagged you. So Ryan Gray is a technical consultant for Portainer. I never met him, so we will meet in this live stream, but I really like him. We have said just something. So, Ryan, can we tell a little bit more about you? Yeah, quite.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. I spent about 16 years in the ISP world. Back when we did a lot of web hosting and mail hosting, as well as building networks. After that, I spent about 10 years building fiber to the home networks, and all the while I built tooling for these networks. And when I realized what containers were and really started digging into them and what they provided, it was absolutely mind-blowing from doing things from such the hard way for so many years. What got me interested in Portainer, though, was when I was struggling to figure out containers and what they meant and how to use them. I looked at Portainer as a way to kind of verify what I was learning. So it taught me a lot of the concepts about how containers work and how they're orchestrated, because I could base it off of their UI there. So while I've done quite a bit of development, I feel like my goal for Portainer is even more of an operations role, because I've rolled it out to operations groups even to get them to understand how their entire workflow and applications work so that they can get in and view logs and stuff. So I kind of, coming from an operations background, I really see Portainer as like being really important in operations coming up here. So that's why I joined.
Yeah, and for example, also for the European Space Agency, also the people in the operations. I was working as a developer, but we had also a lot of people working on the operations. They really loved this as a tool, even if they just used that. They were just users. They really liked that. So I remember this.
Yeah, they love it.
And last but absolutely not least, Adolfo Delorenzo. I loved him since our first call. Product marketing manager. How are you, Adolfo? Welcome.
Hey, thank you, Francesco, and it's great to be here.
Perfect.
Actually, congratulations for this initiative and this show. It's I love this type of event. I think it's fun to have something informal to talk about tech, right?
Exactly.
We geeks are always seen like, introverts that don't like to talk to people, but some of us do. I'm one of those that like to talk to people sometimes, right? And well, I come from a long years of tech, especially in infrastructure. So I've even, just to give you some context, I've even played with mainframes in the past. So
you are older than 20, we can say.
Yeah, much older than that. Yes, definitely. Although my Italian genes don't show my age, but yes, I've got some experience in especially in infrastructure. I've been everywhere. I've done, and I've played a little bit with telecom also. I've worked in the telecom industry for some time, but usually with infrastructure. And the whole thing about Portainer for me was very interesting because I'm a self-host advocate, right? I like to self-host my services and not depend so much on Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, those sort of services. Exactly. By the way, they were offline yesterday, right? So I have my own little infrastructure, and I've been throughout the years learning how to set these services, right? And I remember one day there was this one application. I was like, I really want to run this thing, and it was developed as a Docker, as a container, right? And I hated the idea of working with containers and Docker back then. Kubernetes was still like a bit of an infant yet. I was like, oh God, now I have to learn this thing. I hate this thing. God. Until, doing some research, because I really needed that application, I found Portainer. And then I fell in love with Portainer. And next thing you know, I fell in love with containers and Docker and Kubernetes and orchestration. So I have like this romance with Portainer, because it twisted I wouldn't say twisted, actually, it brought me to light in terms of the containerized world and the benefits of running in a containerized infrastructure. And excuse me, like around 6 months later, playing around and being in Reddit, also as active as I could, I met Neil, the founder of one of the founders of Portainer via Reddit. We connected, and he had this opening, and we talked about it, and he hired me. So I started in Portainer in January of this year as a tech evangelist, basically writing, producing content, educational content, and evangelism, if you may, in terms of Portainer on YouTube. Although my title today is a product marketing manager, in the core, I'm still a tech evangelist. And this is what I like to do. I like to talk and promote. And as you can see, I'm a very talkative person. And my core mission is really, as Dimko also expressed, propagate the word and talk about Portainer. And one thing I really like about Portainer is its open source nature. And I'm very keen into the propagating knowledge concept of open source, right? So this is one of the things I really love about Portainer also, that we have this in our DNA.
Yeah, I think that this is really one of the best things that a company can do, to have this open source project, because there are many benefits. You attract developers. I think you also have less bugs. It's like Linux, something like that. So you have more eyes on code. So the more eyes, the better. Usually, someone could think that being open source, everyone can check the code, but instead it's the opposite. It's more public. So in public, it's harder to get hacked, of course.
And I saw this comment from Linus Torvalds, right? That he was saying, actually I read it yesterday, that his idea behind Linux was to, just do the project and drop it. He's just going to forget about it. And his motivation came in continuing the project because of open source. Because people started bringing enhancements to his code that were proper in nature in terms of problems that real people have, right? It's not like someone came with an idea in a laboratory or in a development team that said, oh, do this. No, it's real stuff, right? So the whole collaboration concept of open source for me is a passion. I think it's amazing. This is what I really like about open source.
Yeah, and I think I really appreciated the open sourceness, because I feel like come from perspective of somebody that has a career because of open source.
Mm-hmm.
And I started on digital Unix and Sun Microsystems boxes, and I really believe there's no way we get to today without open source from those commercial boxes.
And you can see SCO, Solaris, AIX, HPUX, they're all dead.
Yeah.
I
mean,
well, we live in a day where Microsoft runs Linux kernels, so
they have their own Linux distribution.
This is crazy times. If you think about in the past, if I would never have predicted this in the past, never.
We thought the opposite, as Microsoft was considered the cruel and evil company, but now it owns a huge bit of the open source and also the main open source platform.
To be honest, they are doing an amazing job. I think that they would have never coped that. Instead, they are starting from the basics, and they're starting to basically buy everything. Okay. Yeah. So the next question is what is Portainer? I've tried it in my video to say this in a couple of minutes because of you know I'm boring, so people can't listen to me for hours or for minutes like for Adolfo. But we have also Mike. Mike has also a great podcast. He's my friend. We had planned a live stream, but then he had a problem, so we need to make this again, Mike. And Mike is asking about Docker and Kubernetes. Are they competing? Do they work together? And how Portainer is connected with all of them? As you've seen, there are also people maybe they are starting to learn Docker and container. This is one of my aims also on social media to try to democratize the containers and Docker. So I'm starting from the basics sometimes. I've tried to explain why containerization with memes some days ago. So I'm trying really to make everyone understand what they do. So yeah, is there any volunteer? I feel like that's cool. About yeah, Adolfo, go on. You are the first of the class. So you can say.
Well, Mike, thank you for your question. It's an amazing question. Actually, I believe that they don't compete, right? Because it's like comparing. I like to say the following: Docker and Kubernetes, right? Docker is a shirt, and Kubernetes is trousers, right? They're clothes. They're all clothes, right? They serve a purpose, right? To work as clothes, but they have different angles. Right? They can coexist, actually. Right? I think it's not one against the other. It's not that you either use one or you either use the other. Actually, I think a hybrid environment of Docker with Kubernetes is a possibility. It's also very interesting, especially because a lot of the containers that we have today, if not the majority of them, are developed using the Docker technology, right? With the Docker file. Excuse me. Docker Compose is also very interesting technology, interesting YAML JSON technology that is evolving. Do you think the difference between Docker and Kubernetes for me, basically, to start, not the only one, but basically is that you cannot grow with Docker, right? I mean, Docker will only run one process. You can have multiple processes that are the same being running under Docker, but then you have to have some sort of load balancing mechanism also running on top of that. So you can say it's a clusterized, let's say, tool. And then you can say, oh, but there's Docker Swarm. Yeah, but Docker Swarm doesn't. Then yes, we're competing Docker Swarm with Kubernetes, and Docker Swarm lacks tons of functionalities and concepts that Kubernetes has, right?
I know because I've used that so in the past, so I can say this. Yeah, because I think that there could also be some people who are just getting started with development, maybe that are watching this. So maybe you need to start from the basics. You start with HTML, CSS, JavaScript. When you start to, I think that when you arrive at least to understand that container exists, you are already at a good point. But that, as you said, of course, Adolfo, is not enough because it depends. If you want to create your product and you are lucky enough or are good enough that product scale, at some point you understand that you need exactly what you said. So we understand that there are a lot of concepts. It's not for someone who just started 2 weeks ago. Maybe it could also feel overwhelming, but we are saying that this is also why I try to educate people to at least start to understand what containerization is, and then you scale little by little also what you need, and you can also stop whatever you want. For example, for my decision, I'm trying to explain before about containers, and then of course we'll reach also to Kubernetes. This is it. Use Docker to start and then scale with Kubernetes. Would you like to give an answer, Dimko, Ryan?
Yeah, I can take this one. Definitely, I'd make a note here that with Docker is basically the underlying engine for anything that is orchestrated by Kubernetes. So you can imagine that as a huge orchestrator and all of the applications running on that Kubernetes cluster, but these applications use Docker. So you can start with Docker on your local machine and run that Docker container and have your app up and running on your local machine. But if you need to accommodate a huge amount of requests, if you need to have like 10 of these containers to accommodate all of the incoming queries to your service, then definitely you would go with Kubernetes, because that is exactly what was built to enable these scaling workflows. And apart from that, it gives you much more other opportunities, such as managing the role-based access policies, storing the data on top of that Kubernetes cluster, etc. So exposing it to a
Perfect.
network, adding DNSs, breaking Facebook with that. So a lot of things you can do then. And
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
there was a
Hey,
question before that, which is I am
Yeah.
familiar with AWS.
Yeah. Today I released a video about AWS and ECS, but I leave you maybe
Okay.
the honor to press forward, because maybe you know more the part of Portainer than deployment with Portainer, and then we can check the difference. But if you have experience with AWS, of course.
Okay.
And before the answer is, thank you. Perfect, Mike. Stay with us. Perfect. So I'm familiar with AWS ECS, which is basically a service to deploy containers to make this fast. Basically, how different is the Portainer from it? What's the difference?
Ryan, do you want to give it a shot? Do you want me to try?
I'll go ahead. I haven't seen much VCS.
Okay, all right. So as much as there's ECS, there's also ACI, which is the equivalent service for Azure, and I'm sure Google also has
Yeah.
something similar, which I don't remember the name. So each
Neither.
cloud provider has its own container management service, right? The question I would turn back the question to you: can you run ECS on your laptop? Can you run ECS on a Raspberry Pi, right? And this is where the difference comes with Portainer. Portainer is agnostic; it can run anywhere, right? And it doesn't really care if it's running on a local infrastructure, on a hybrid infrastructure, or on a purely 100% cloud-based infrastructure. Portainer is in a level of let's say, of your infrastructure where you can deploy anywhere, right? It can, as long as there's underlying Kubernetes API running on it, or a Docker API running on your machine, you can run Portainer anywhere. So that's I think one of the main differences, right? ECS, in terms of functionality, might be very similar, as much as ACI might be very similar to Portainer, but they run specifically on their infrastructure, and Portainer wasn't designed to run on any specific infrastructure. I mean, in essence, that's one of the main differences.
Yeah, I just had, but so can you run Portainer on a Raspberry Pi?
Actually, yes, and we're developing an image that's going to be a self-contained.
I have a Raspberry Pi, and I'll create something out of that. Nice.
We're creating an image, which is we're calling the portable Portainer, that you're going to deploy like a bootable Raspberry Pi operating system with Portainer installed and Kubernetes installed and everything up and running. So all you have to do is just plug it in, open your browser, and start playing around with it. So that's one of the things we're working on.
Super curious about this, Adolfo. I want to.
Definitely.
It runs really well on Raspberry Pi too. So I've got some real old ones, and it works great.
I have a version 3, I think, so it will be super smooth.
Yeah,
very well.
Must be.
Nice.
Actually, it only runs on Raspberry Pis. It's better clear that it runs on ARM-based processors. So I have 2 Odroids, and I run Raspberry Pi on these Odroids very nicely. So
yeah,
it's not really Raspberry Pi dependent. It's just ARM. If it's ARM64, it's going to run.
Perfect. I like this. Okay, so if you want to check Portainer, is the link of the website. Thank you. Say the code. Perfect. So if you want to check it, I'll leave this in the comments. In the meanwhile, now I'd like maybe to dedicate maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes to a little bit of the story of Portainer. So I don't know who is the oldest one. I'm joking, but maybe someone who can say something about the story. Also, if you have something about the most important moments, some most important moment during the process, because I think it's interesting also to see, since I think that a lot of people that are here, they are also developers or or they come from the IT world, to understand the process. So, is there any volunteer, Adolfo?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And then
So,
I'm joking, of course. Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna explain it very quickly. Neil Creswell, one of the founders of Portainer, he worked at VMware with infrastructure, and when the whole containerized application world started to come up, and back then it was basically Docker, right? He realized that there weren't any decent tools to manage this in streamlined, straightforward perspective, right? It was like command line, which is not always the best way to do things. Sometimes, if you look at what you want, right? Sometimes you want something simple, and you don't need to have a command line, or you basically want to democratize things by simplifying the usage of the technology with tools that can enable that, right? So he came up with the idea of, with Anthony LaPena, which is the other one of the other founders of Portainer, and one of the main developers, to come up with this with Portainer, right? And so basically, Neil developed that for himself, right? He wanted something that he could use to work with containerized images with Docker in a nice and smooth manner. So they both came up with this product, and they're like, right, it's interesting. People are liking this. Let's just go open source with it. And once they went open source with it, it like boom, it grew it very, very quickly, and it became extremely interesting and popular, right? And then, well, Portainer was incorporated as a company to continue the idea of Portainer in itself to the open source community. Although we also have a business, some business features in a business edition of Portainer. That's pretty much how it came, as like everything in open source, right? You need something. You need something that can help you manage your life better in terms of tech. You develop it and you promote it with the open source community. So that's pretty much how Portainer, let's say, was born and started.
Perfect. Perfect. And I think that if we want maybe a longer version, I'll invite Neo in a one by one
Yes,
call,
yes,
and I
yes.
want you to
With
be
all the details,
to
yes,
be in
you'll
the
definitely.
chat the day. So we need to plan. Maybe we need just to coordinate on the time zone, because he's from New Zealand, as far as I
Yes,
remember.
he's
So
sleeping now. So
probably
yeah.
probably it will be night on me or him. So okay, but we will do this another time, of course. Thank you, Adolfo. So uh, now I would like to leave some time, maybe if you want to share something strange that happened, for example, since you joined, or maybe something about Portainer, or maybe also inside the company. So do you have something to share? Someone else, not Adolfo.
I think I'd be able to.
Go.
Once I joined, uh, I've I had the impression of working with quite of a conservative team, with people who are more into doing the stuff the old way. Once I started digging into the organization and talking to many people, I figured out that it's definitely 100% not true, and these people are just populated with crazy and weird and nice, in a good way, of ideas. And just recently, I've seen the marketing campaign for KubeCon. I'm sure that I wouldn't be able to say that, but it's like lit. It's
It's good.
so strange, and it gets right through my heart of a software
Yeah.
engineer. So that
Yeah.
was really a strange roller coaster, going from um, seeing the organization as a very conservative into a very free in terms of ideas, free, like do whatever you want, so it meets the
Yeah.
goal.
Yeah. I think the environment is surprisingly that way, Dimko. And I've only been here 3 weeks, so that's been a very nice surprise.
Perfect.
I think that partly comes from the big diversity that we have, because now we are pretty much. I'm in Ukraine. I assume that Adolfo is. Are you in Costa Rica now? Yeah,
I'm
Ryan
in Costa
somewhere in
Rica.
US.
Yeah.
And Francesco's in
Yes.
Italy, so
Yes.
I live in Italy, mamma mia. Yes.
And the
Yes,
main office
yes.
is New Zealand, which is
Yeah.
just completely crazy. Mix of the cultures that we have
Yeah.
kind of gives the blast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really
Absolutely.
good crew.
Great. It's an amazing global team there. Thank you, Andrew. Great. I love this profile picture. I don't know why, but I love it. Yes. I have another question. I have a lot of questions here, basically. But what about the events, for example, the talks? Because, for example, I would like maybe to try in the future. So, for example, do you have some experience? Have you had some experience in this or not? Do you have something about, for example, talks about Portainer or maybe partnership with someone else? I'm sure that there is somewhere. Is there?
So we are doing the work at speaking at various events, so we can bring value to the community by just going up there and
Nice.
talking to people and sharing what we learn while building Portainer, because that's definitely the process that comes top down. So you have the Kubernetes and you dig into that huge engine and figure out what's inside of that, and then you definitely have much more knowledge of the internals than any other person which started by just using CLI commands. So going to these kind of conferences, meetups, local communities, webinars, etc. And this is actually part of my job as well, to advocate in public space for Portainer. What I usually tend to do is do more of a thought leadership on the industry, because industry is so ever changing, and each time it's amazing how Portainer is still into the industry and how it affects the industry, how we shape that. I really love that. And from the major ones, obviously, I've mentioned the KubeCon, which will be part of our event strategy for this year, which is a big
Perfect.
one, really big
It
one.
should be next week, next Monday, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Wednesday, I think. Yeah, Wednesday.
Wednesday?
There's EdgeCon, and then
Okay.
there's KubeCon on the same week. We're actually we're on both. So
Perfect.
yeah.
Okay, nice.
And to add a little bit to what Dimko also very well put and nicely in terms of events and what we do. We also have the Portainer series. For now, it's we're reworking the Portainer series, which is and hopefully Dimko will also start hosting those for us very soon. It's a series of real life cases that we bring to
Nice.
to talk to the community. And it's a 1 hour session where I usually just talk my head off, and then I leave it open for questions. But I will always bring a topic that is more reflective to what we see as a real life case. We have also other initiatives that we want to bring to the community. But this year we're going to finish, I think, our year with KubeCon as being our main big event that we're going to participate at large, if you may, to everyone.
Yeah, perfect. Ryan, can you answer to this question? Is Portainer an alternative to Docker or Kubernetes? Because I got this question quite often. So can you try to give it a try at this?
Yeah, definitely. I think the shortest answer I have is it is definitely not an alternative to Docker or Kubernetes. Think of it as a GUI or a web UI in front of Docker and Kubernetes, as well as Docker Swarm, just in case that needs to be distinguished there. So it is a management front end to both of those.
Perfect. Thank you. So now I'll snippet this video and I'll send this to everyone. Thank you, Ryan. Now at least we have this. It's like 10 times per day usually.
Perfect.
And Andrew, by the way, it's amazing in chat. Maybe it has been great that now he's in chat. Next time, and Andrew, you will be on live stream, by the way. So hit up our Twitter if you want a free ticket to the virtual KubeCon show. So don't lose this opportunity. Let me also share this. And meanwhile, the links. Yeah, so I'll check. Now let me check the Portainer on Twitter. Please say something in the meanwhile. Save my life as a host.
Okay, cool.
Right. Well,
What I can do? Yeah, go on.
Dimko, go ahead. I was going to ask you actually to sort of share your perspective as a person that comes from the dev world into Portainer. How do you see Portainer?
Mm-hmm. Okay. I definitely see a huge fit into the dev community because for me as a dev, it would make life with Kubernetes so much easier. And the life of a technical leader trying to educate my team will be definitely much easier with Portainer because I wouldn't need them to have like 3-day training on the subject. Instead, I would be just able to hand them out the tool and be sure that they will not break anything with that. Not anyhow reducing the level of their knowledge, but it's a great place to start. And once you are digging into that, you start finding out that Portainer has really a lot of features, even for advanced workflows. So most of the cases I think I've did in distributed system engineering could be covered with that. All of the manual YAMLs, all of the endless sleepless nights spent debugging Kubernetes would be just removed from my life.
Yeah. Francesco, may I share a picture? Just one picture I want to share.
Yeah, for sure. Share a picture. Maybe you should share your screen if you want.
Yeah, let me see if I find the picture.
Is this suitable for kids or not?
It's about YAML. I want to share the vision.
So no.
What is?
So I think I need to check this before sharing. So maybe
don't worry. It's nothing improper, but it's more of what happens if you do not use Portainer. Okay. Is everybody seeing my screen? Okay.
I don't know.
No one can.
No. Yes. I trust you. I trust you. Yeah. This
can you see the picture now?
Yeah. This can be the person who yesterday was fixing Facebook, basically.
Yes.
And also hit the.
So this is. I mean, I saw this picture, and I'll stop sharing now. And then with Dimko, we worked on a post about RBAC, right? How to manage RBAC with Kubernetes, and when you do not use Portainer, you probably end up with a situation similar to that poor man up the post, trying to get things working. And although a humor aside, it's one of our missions is to remove complexity, right? I think it's one of the main missions of Portainer. Remove complexity. You don't need to do complex operations always in a complex manner. You can do complex operations in a simple manner, and that's one of the other things that define Portainer as a technology.
Yeah, because as I said, the computer, they exist since now decades now. So we should go at least in the direction we try to simplify instead of over complicate. Now there is a picture that I can't find, but I can describe like it was like before HTML, CSS, JavaScript deployed. now there is like React, Nest.js, Docker, Kubernetes fail, basically something like that. So this is a meme, but it has some truth behind that. So now everyone wants to scale, everyone wants to use containers. I've seen like people just literally putting everything inside a container with a bash script, which is not really a container in that case, maybe, and maybe also use all the services in the same container. And basically saying this maybe to hurt someone who loves container and is watching this. So we should go at least in the direction where we try to simplify this. So simplify is not that easy. It can be hard to simplify things. Yeah. Poor Facebook. Yeah. I got my girlfriend who said me like, why you're not answering to me on WhatsApp? It's down. Sorry. I had the perfect excuse. Yeah.
Indeed.
I hope she's not on the live stream. Okay.
Well played.
If I have a Docker compose .yml file, does Portainer will create other containers mapped into that file, or I have to write down separate config YML file for each services? Hi, Vignesh. Dodge. Okay. So, would you like to answer to this?
Yeah.
Adolfo, as is a brown, is already raised.
Yeah, he does.
Can you give it a shot, Ryan? Do you want to give it a shot?
Yeah. You can definitely put all your services into one Docker Compose YAML file. In fact, you can also host that Docker Compose YAML file on GitHub and have Portainer go grab it right from GitHub, based on whatever branch you care about. But yeah, as far as services go and just turning up an application in Portainer, absolutely feel free to put all your services in one Docker Compose and then either host it on GitHub or paste it into the UI. And it'll run all of them. Yeah.
For example, I'm a fan of the Docker Compose file. I've been, I'm a fan, but I've also fought with that for hours now because I'm trying to replicate some Solidity example, but in local development. So I'm trying to replicate what basically we have already online. Just because I'm crazy, I don't know. Because I want to link this in some containers, maybe also prepare some talk. I don't know. I want to know more about this, and this, for example, could be a great example with that. So, yes, that's it. Perfect.
May I add a little bit to that? You can also extract Docker Compose from, for instance, a Git a repo, as Ryan mentioned, and deploy that onto Kubernetes using Portina. Yes, and I've done several tests. Actually, last week I was in Texas doing a presentation exactly on that, how to migrate from Docker to Kubernetes, and the best way to do that is using a Docker Compose file. And 90% of the time it works flawlessly. I mean, there's obviously some little tweaking that you might want to do, the Docker Compose file version, some compose tags that you need to have to add, some labels. But I mean, I would say like 7 out of 10 times it works perfectly.
Yeah, and it's a killer way to learn Kubernetes too. It's to work your way in backwards if you're already used to Docker Compose and using those, and just start chucking them in and seeing what happens when you try to turn them up in Kubernetes.
And Portainer generates the YAML file into the Kubernetes equivalent YAML file, so you can work on both and compare them. And see how one translates into the other. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Is this recorded, Adolfo? Is this talk?
Yes. There's. Let me see if I can get the link. Let me share the link with you guys.
Yeah. Do you have here the private chat if you want, and I can share with the people?
Okay.
If you want.
Let me look for it in the meantime.
Yeah. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Code with Kirag. Docker Compose is the best thing happened to Docker. It's one of the haha moment when you learn the containerization. Is in the normal process. This is really exactly what we need, because a lot of tutorials, they start from the basics, very long Docker. The Docker run starts to become that big. Then in the next lessons there is the Docker Compose. Is also how I explain this. And while we are waiting, Dimko, can you tell us something more about the Portainer community? So, for example, where can we find that? I'm sure that the website, but also something more about the community of Portainer.
So I think the main ones are Reddit. You can find us always on Twitter, mention us, tag us, and Slack, Discord. We have all of that, and we consistently monitor our own subreddit, our Portainer. So feel free to hit up your questions onto that. Same as
Perfect.
with Stack Overflow, we also monitor that.
Nice.
I think I'd be able to, or me or someone else in the chat might be able to push the social channels in the comment section.
Yeah. I love that you used the word push. It's something related to containers, probably. But yeah, Dimko, before I forget this, because I'm getting old, if you send me the links at the end of the live stream, so now you should see the links in the description. I've not added this, but I'll add this as soon as we end, or maybe I can also do this live if that's required. So perfect. Nice. So okay, so usually at the beginning of the year, I was saying like which are the goal of the year, but since now we are in October, for example, which is the current situation, and maybe also we can say talk about the next year now. You are the first one, so I ask this. So about, for example, some future plans, something that will happen in next year. Do you have something to share about this? While I try to post some links. Please help me.
Right. Yeah, no, we have a roadmap of features that we want to incorporate into Portainer. I don't know how much of them I can talk about, Francesco, but what I can say, yes, is definitely that we have.
But we can create the hype. This was the idea.
Yes, that's what I would like to address, and we've started with the latest version now of 2.9 of Portainer, with tons of amazing features of Kubernetes. And we will add even more features as time progresses. We have a strong intent to enhance even more our support of Kubernetes. A lot of people see Portainer as a Docker GUI, and this is how Portainer was born, actually, as a Docker GUI. But since we've adopted also the management of Kubernetes, we've realized that we have to also provide, and this is a lot of the feedback that we receive from the community, features that would make Portainer a compelling and more interesting tool to be used to manage containers with Kubernetes. And I think that with this new version that we've just launched, we will start to see that. I like to say that we were like teenagers just before this version in terms of Kubernetes support. And now we're adults because we bring really heavy stuff that you can do, really cool stuff that we can do now with Portainer in terms of Kubernetes. This is not to say that we're going to abandon Docker whatsoever. Obviously not. We're always going to be a multi-orchestration tool. But I mean, Kubernetes definitely needs a lot of attention, and we're working on that heavily on that. So you can expect really cool features in the Kubernetes, let's say, management within Portainer.
Perfect. So hey Rahul, how are you all?
Hey Rahul, good to see you here.
Rahul, I think. Yeah, we're fine, thanks. We're hanging out, and it's super relaxing. How is it going? Yeah, Vish. Yeah, there are some people who really like my live streams, so I started to become really friendly with some of them. And yes, thank you, Adolfo. So let's see. I think in 1 week or a couple of weeks, we will have some announcement. At least we can say that there will be an announcement, right? That can at least say this.
Yes.
So we are not saying this in this live stream. I'm sorry. maybe it could be an idea to invite Neo after that, so we can also do the announcement. What do you think about that?
I think it's a great idea.
That will be a great move. Perfect. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave it. I want to remember that we are not here just to talk as a super experts, as I don't know if we are or not, but also, for example, if you have also some basic questions, so don't be shy to ask them. We are trying to ask all of them, of course. Yeah, and in the meanwhile, maybe we can start. Maybe I like to listen maybe to Dimko if you want to add something before we close this our first session. If you enjoyed this, this is because to be honest, this is a basically new format also for me. I'm used more on the one-on-one, but I've been on the Docker official event with a lot of guests, so I like this format with more people. So yeah, do you like this? Do you have something to add, please?
I really loved the idea that you raised, and I really loved how it went. It's so relaxing, so stress-free, and really gives all of us an ability to talk to each other while sharing and answering useful questions, so other people can learn. So I really love that, and we'll be really happy to participate in anything else similar.
Perfect. So let's keep in touch, Dimko, because
Yes.
I think that we will do something together.
Yeah,
soon,
yes.
very soon.
Please,
very soon.
let's make more of these. I love this type of. I agree with Dimko.
Yeah,
this
this has
is
been
a
great.
perfect format.
Perfect.
Relaxed
This is
and informal. Yeah.
it's super
Maybe
relaxing.
not only. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Yeah. We can also do something. Maybe you can have maybe a goal, and we can fail live. So that would be super fun to do. Yes. Yeah. Perfect.
We can do maybe something similar, but on a different topic, not on Portainer, but maybe something which is, I don't know, going through the Docker, going through the Kubernetes, going through GitOps, going through anything else in the industry, which is a subject to learn.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. This exact format is really what we are doing now. So we invite like Portainer or I don't know, like Docker community. So I invite really people that are working in the same company, also to show people that are behind the company. So this is really the idea. Then we can start whatever we want. Man of late, this is very new for me, but a long way to go before I begin to understand what you guys are talking about. Thank you for the stream. I know, Vish, it's not easy. It took me
Just keep
years.
going.
It took me years, but I think that now you need less time, because I think that if you start at the beginning, you need more time. Maybe now you can get started faster. I think this is what I think. If you go on the right direction, of course. We have this one, Ryan. So now it's your turn. and Code, this question is the best. I don't know how they know this.
I've just been collecting them over the years. Maybe there's room for a Portainer tattoo here somewhere. we can throw one on maybe right there, but some of that.
Of course, they need to pay you a lot, because that's a permanent sponsorship.
We'd have to work something out. Yeah, they might be surprised at how little I'll take. So we'll see.
Nice. Perfect. Yeah, of course. Yeah, Andrew. Yeah. And I said, Andrew, if you want help, just ask. For me, Portina is like when you talk about football in Italy, but I talk about Docker and Portina and Kubernetes at the same time. You can literally hang for all the afternoon. You can also do this live stream, Andrew, if you want. Great, amazing. So, Ryan, would you like to add something before we close this our first episode? Ryan. Ryan
is shy.
Yeah, would you like to say something before we close? Goodbye. See you next time. Have you heard? Can you hear me?
Can't hear us. Can you hear us, Ryan?
There we go. Yeah, now I'm back.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
I thought that you were just shy. Instead, there was connection issues.
Yeah. Yeah, I just lost audio for a second.
Because I read the question and you said like this. You said like this.
Yeah. Like a deer in headlights. Yeah.
Yeah. So would you like to say something before we close, Ryan?
No, it's been nice to meet you, and it's been really great to be here. And Adolfo and Dimko, it's nice to see you guys too. So
Perfect. Okay, so I think now we can close. Everybody has said this. No, Adolfo, I was missing you. So
Oh, okay.
no, I'm joking.
Just thank you very much. This is amazing. I love this type of event, and it's been an honor, humbling experience, and I'd love to participate in any way that you believe would be interesting for anyone. You can access any of us on LinkedIn, on Twitter. We're all there to help you guys, or you can just join us in the community page. And one thing I really love to do is to teach. So whatever I can help people with, just don't feel shy to contact us or me directly if you want to talk about whatever. I mean, nice. I'm not a football fan, but I like technology, so I love to talk about technology. So.
For being an Italian, I'm not a really super football fan. I could lose my citizenship for saying this, but I'm more.
If I tell you I was born in Brazil and I don't like football, what would you say? I mean, I could lose my Brazilian passport also for saying this.
Yeah, perfect.
So thank you, Francesco. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Because, for example, I also do this live stream because at least we can know a little bit more each other. We can plan stuff. And in the meanwhile, if we can answer to some questions, because I get many questions in DMs, always the same questions, to be honest. So in the live stream, you can answer to more people at the same time. So this is the idea. Thank you. Hey, Code, thank you. You stayed all the live stream. Thank you so much. It was a very informative event, and I will try Portainer myself. This is the idea. Maybe after that, I will have more questions to ask. Perfect. This is exactly, you nailed the idea of this live stream. So we are here all for you. And yes, that's perfect. So yes. So I think that for this time, it's enough. If you want to say something else, I just want to say that while we were talking, I've added all the links also in the description. So at least now I don't forget once we close this. And yes, so you can just take a look. There is also, of course, a very great free tier. So you can start for free, of course. You don't need to do it, because I think this is one great plus that you can start watching around. You can check my video on how to install that. Of course, I made this. This is very recent, by the way. And yes, so this is the idea. I'm also so happy now. I know all of you way better. And perfect. Yeah, if you have any questions, you can hit us, me, on everybody else. Perfect. We are done.
Thank you very much.
I'm super happy of what we did today. Okay.
Bye. Thank you.
Perfect.
Alrighty.
Take care.
See you later.
See ya.
Bye.